Grandmaster Greco-Wong was destined to go down in the history of Wing Chun when he received a proposition from his student Rolf Klausnitzer to be the co-author of the first book about Wing Chun, written in English. The year was 1969. The publisher Paul Crampton, who had already published the Karate and Oriental Arts magazine since 1966, had a bookstore in London. It was there where Klausnitzer presented the idea of publishing the first book about Wing Chun. Crampton reports that he accepted the proposition without having any clue of how he would get a return on his investment. Would the public, which was accustomed to the karate styles such as Shotokan, Wado, Kyokushin, Goju, Shukokai, and Shotokai, be ready for Wing Chun? He admits that not even he was ready, but Sifu Klausnitzer's enthusiasm was such that he was convinced to publish a book of such little known system. Until then, he had already ventured to publish a book called Kung Fu: An Introduction by an author called Legios Jacob, which presents an eclectic work developed by Baron Omidi. Therefore, Crampton's current challenge was to publish a Kung Fu book authored by a person who could represent a recognized Chinese lineage and, with it, all the consequences of it represented. Rolf Klausnitzer already knew the person's name. It was his own Sifu, Greco-Wong. Rolf met Greco in Hong Kong House, a meeting place for Hong Kong people. Fortunately, Greco-Wong understood the importance of the undertaking, and that wasn't little. I remember that we are talking about a period in which Bruce Lee was not a world superstar. The Kung Fu series had not yet been released, and Patriarch Ip Man was still alive. Thus, Wong's first demand was to receive authorization from his Sifu Mu Yat for the publication of the book. After a time span that seemed like an eternity for those involved in this project, the green light was given. A curious fact described by Crampton about the production of the book was that Greco-Wong preferred to take the pictures in his home instead of going to a photo studio suggested by him. Much speculation has been made about this fact. Actually, Sihin Greco lived over 1 hour away from London. He doesn't want to travel to photo studio, so he considered having them come to his house to take pictures and identify how much they really wanted the project to go forward. Luckily, Paul Crampton was an experienced photographer and a competent publisher. He knew how to explore the different environments in Wong's house to produce a work that was satisfactory by the standards of the time. To point that many thought that the external environment present was a reproduction of the streets of Hong Kong, where Greco-Wong had learned his art. The book was written in 4 weeks by Rolf Klausnitzer, but the technical content was in charge of Greco-Wong. It was a great challenge. How to present to the public a subject that has never been published, whose system is completely unknown to the reader. Fortunately for all of us, the book has a structure that has helped many thousands of people to become aware of what was a Kung Fu system. However, Sihin Greco-Wong made sure to cautiously show the minimum regarding the sequence of Siu Nim Tao. the listing that names the first domain of the Wing Chun system. There were only 39 pictures to describe the possible 90 movements of the sequence. Interestingly, the photos were strategically chosen with all loss of content. Even the most basic associated components such as lap sao and chi sao, either with one or two hands, are presented in such a way as to understand what they are about. But one fact must be recognized and registered. This was the book that established the reference of how to describe the movements of Wing Chun for the future. All documents that were subsequently published receive in some way the influence of this work. When published, the book was well received. Eventually, the publisher, Paul Crampton, claimed to have received some threats for having revealed the secrets of Kung Fu. However, according to what Patriarch Muyat has told me, in Hong Kong, the general feeling about the book was one of enthusiasm. After all, it was the first time that the Wing Chun system was described in English, and Iman's feeling was one of the pride based on what had been achieved. After being asked about who had written such a work, Patriarch Iman was direct and objective: Achun, student of Muyat. Perhaps the 8th generation patriarch had an idea of how that book would influence dozens of people around the world. As was my case, I had access to a photocopy of the work. I managed to bind it, and I took an English-Portuguese dictionary to translate the content of the work, word by word, literally. This book, therefore, not only allowed me to learn more about the Wing Chun system, but it was also the motivation for me to learn the English language.